Good morning, everybody.
Hi.
Hi. How are we doing?
Trying.
Good morning.
Am I not muted? No. Okay.
Yeah,
Good
you're here.
morning.
Glad you're here. Um, I take it you guys can hear me and see me just fine, right?
Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah,
So,
why? Are you on mute? Nice.
I ask specifically because I'm trying out a what's called a local work club, which is sort of like a communal place where people can, sort of like have their own, offices from time to time. This is
Shared
something in
space.
Charleston.
Mhm.
So they have a couple of booths that are soundproof so that we don't hear the ambient music that you have everywhere else, and that we can. All right, so hey, I guess this is working. So very glad to know that this is a good option. So uh,
Rabbi,
yeah,
may I ask you a question before we get started?
go for it.
I read this morning that the mitzvah for Purim of giving two offerings to poor people can be fulfilled by making a donation to your rabbi's discretionary fund. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Always.
yeah, indeed. I mean, look, my discretionary fund, I'm allowed to use it for a number of things, hence discretionary. But one of those things, but and there are times where I use it for things that help me do my job better,
Mhm.
which that are not in the synagogue budget, but they help me become more available and helpful, etc. Um, and then there, and I mean, then there are like all these rules for this that I do follow. And then there are plenty of times where it's somebody in need,
Mhm.
somebody who needs something. So
Yeah.
and so that is certainly fine if you want to do that. Um, the couple of I'm going to put this in my Friday email. The couple of things that I am advocating or putting in there is either Mazon,
Mhm.
which is the Jewish response to hunger, or
Yeah.
the Second Harvest
Yeah.
of East Tennessee.
Mhm.
And so I will. My hope is to have links for both of them, if you'd rather go directly. But those are good sources as well.
Yeah, this thing I was reading just said if on Purim, if you don't have to go out like kind of searching for poor people to get, you can donate it to your rabbi's discretionary fund.
Yeah, yeah,
For
certainly
these
fine.
other funds. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, no, absolutely. So there we could, so and part of it is that so there's the giving of gifts. It is kind of a twofold thing, because like on one hand there's mishloach manot,
Mm-hmm.
which is giving gifts of food to other people, and but those can be to whoever we want. Those can be
Mm-hmm.
people whether they are in need or not.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So doing that is separate from giving specifically to people in need.
Mm-hmm.
And those don't necessarily have to be gifts of food, of specifically of food, though it is customary to do so. The giving to those who are lacking. So yeah,
And that's really neat in Israel when you're in Jerusalem for Purim. Everybody runs through the neighborhoods carrying trays of food to their friends. So it's a very, very cool custom.
it's no, I mean it's amazing. It's
Mm.
amazing,
And it's
and yeah,
it's food that doesn't have to be anything done to it before it's eaten, right? It's already prepared.
It's usually Hamantaschen and things like that.
yeah. I know some people who follow the custom of having at least one thing that has been prepared in their kitchen, or
Mm-hmm.
is natural in some way. I remember one time getting mishloach manot from a very well-meaning family. I don't know if they really knew what to do or what was typically done, and they gave me a paper bag and in the paper bag was a Hamantaschen and a spoiled apple. And
Oh,
That
you
makes
know,
sense.
I mean, they fulfilled the mitzvah. Was it very good?
mm,
Okay, but I mean, but it's the thought that counts, truly, as we know. Um, and
Going for the neighborhood guild, is that any neighborhood, their neighborhood, or what we consider a poor neighborhood?
No, any neighborhood. I mean,
Yeah.
I was in, you know, in Rehavia, and everybody was like walking all day long, like people were walking around with carrying trays.
But they weren't applying the report bill. I just think that'd be pretty tacky to do that in the projects or something. You're allowed to get stabbed too, but that's
well,
beside the point.
Yeah.
no, I mean, I think, listen, I mean, obviously, whatever safety concerns you might have, you should, keep in mind. But I would say that, I mean, it could be for anybody. I mean, it could be for anybody who is in need. And so if you would rather, rely on a relief organization that works in communities with communities that perhaps you might not feel as safe in, I would say just give to them for them to distribute. You don't necessarily have to go, under the bridge downtown where I know that there's downtown Knoxville, where there are a lot of homeless people there, and there's a shelter nearby. I would say, I mean, if you don't feel comfortable doing that, doing like a directly handing things
But
to
it's
people
not
there.
comfortable, just that being sensitive. The people might be insulted if even though they're poor, they may not want to admit that they're poor.
Sure, sure. So, I mean, when you think about Moses Maimonides' levels of giving, right? Moses Maimonides had did a sort of a ladder, a tzedakah ladder, if you will, of 8 different things, 8 different ways of giving. All of them are meritorious, but some are better than others. So, for instance, like the bottom of, like, sort of the least desirous way of giving is when you know the person, they know you, and you give reluctantly. You're going to, okay, fine, you know, but it is better than nothing, right? I mean, you are at least giving. It's not great the way you do it, and probably doesn't make anybody feel good, but it still is better than not giving a penny. And then you work your way to, to other levels that include when you know the person, but the person doesn't know you, when the person knows you, but you don't know the person. And even higher than those is when it's completely anonymous. You don't know who's benefiting, and they don't know who's getting it. And then the highest level is um, not necessarily a material gift, but rather the teaching of a skill.
Mm.
That's considered the highest way. So you have these different levels of giving. Whichever way you give is still meritorious. There was, I know that sometimes, I mean, like, which leads to an interesting discussion because many times synagogues and Jewish organizations rely very much, I mean, look, obviously rely a lot on donations, right? I mean, that's a big part of what allows it to go around. And there are times in which a synagogue or another Jewish organization will offer the naming rights for a room in the synagogue, a for a room, for the sanctuary, the social hall, you name it, an office space. There was, and I'm not kidding, I've seen dedication plaques in synagogue bathrooms.
Seriously?
Yeah, yeah. I've actually, I mean, I don't think it was like over the toilet, but like, I mean, I did see, I mean, It's like, I mean, and I don't know who in their right mind would say, when you're relieving yourself, think of me. No, I mean, I don't think anybody who in their right mind would want to do that. But I mean, but I've seen it in like where the bathroom space, the plumbing was sponsored by this person. And
They
you
may
know,
not even have asked to have the plaque there. The synagogue may just have put it there as a thank you. I don't know.
could be,
Maybe, perhaps, because it seems a little odd. But people are weird. I don't know.
Yeah, who knows? Who knows? I mean, maybe they just wanted to reserve a space for the number one donation. All right, I'm sorry. I'm
Horrible.
sorry.
Oh my God.
I mean, that makes sense.
Took you a
But,
second there, Richard.
but I mean, uncouth jokes aside, there are, I mean, like there are other people who make remarks that like, what are synagogues? What are the building materials for a synagogue? It's where it feels like the synagogue wasn't put together by bricks or by wood, but rather by dedication plaques, one on top of the other. And so some synagogues do this. Some synagogues will, and others will say, you know what, we're only going to do this anonymously. We're only going to have anonymous donations. What I think, like realistically, there are some people who really like seeing their name
Oh, there are.
on donations, right?
Uh-huh.
Again, is it better than not giving at all? Of course. How badly you need to have your name on there is another discussion. And it is sometimes I find uncomfortable knowing that knowing that that was important to somebody, right? I mean, again, it's it's better than nothing. There is I may have told you about this is a matter of public record, so I don't think this is a bad thing. So the owner of the Carolina Panthers was a junk bond billionaire when he was making his money. His name is David Tepper. David Tepper was a member of the synagogue where I worked as an assistant rabbi 20 years ago in New Jersey. He has since moved to Florida. And he and his then wife gave $1 million to the religious school library, or to the religious school, and then the religious school library was then named for them, and and then they were honored at the synagogue's annual dinner dance fundraiser. And this was a family that really wasn't active in synagogue in general. You didn't really see them, but $1 million is $1 million. They gave a $1 million donation. I mean, it's like, and at a certain point, like, okay, look, it's always good to say thank you. Don't get me wrong. You always need to say thank you, right? Regardless of whether the donation is anonymous or not, or publicly anonymous or not. And there are times, by the way, and so sometimes I wonder, I know I'm kind of going on a soapbox here, but I think it does say something about, it is a thought about Jewish ethics, certainly. When something is named for a person who then does bad things or who has done bad things, right? So, as an example, there was a time in the 1980s, I believe, that the Jewish Theological Seminary's library was named the Ivan Boesky Library. Ivan Boesky, as you might remember, was a white-collar criminal, right? And he was a white-collar, and my understanding is, to his credit, Ivan Boesky said, when he was, arrested and charged and, punished, he told Jewish Theological Seminary, okay, take my name off. Take my name off. You don't want to be associated with it, and didn't expect his money back. So, okay, to his credit, that he did that. Other people might not be quite as, magnanimous at that moment.
They're looking at it positive, even though if it's not $1 million, regardless of the amount. And what if somebody gets named in that? That should encourage other people to say, well, if he or she could do that, why can't I?
And by the way, and I'm glad you brought that up, Will, because that is I think a compelling counter argument, right? In other words, they say, look, like there is a wonderful philanthropist in Charleston named Anita Zucker. She is actually the richest person in the state of South Carolina. She gives, in many places, she gives to the local technical college. She does all these things for education, for universities, and to the Jewish community, as well as, she works in, depressed economic areas to try to build them up. I mean, what she does is incredible. And, and now she puts her name to it, and, she said, and she makes a point of saying, I've made my commitments. I encourage you to make yours. And so that's the best kind. Now, it also helps that Anita Zucker is a very good person. I mean, I happen to know personally. She's a very kind, and, it's a, it comes from a very genuine place. It's, does not, from what I've seen and from what other people believe, it's not about some big ego trip or anything like that. But then what happens when you have, let's say you have a, somebody who does bad things, their name's on the building, and they aren't going to be like Ivan Boesky, and they're not going to volunteer to have the name taken down. It gets to be complicated, and there are numerous places that, institutions in the Jewish world that are named for people that are, we've discovered over the years, are not they're not on the up and up.
But that's an argument for naming rights versus making a donation and being recognized in the Hakoel or recognized in the synagogue's newsletter or something. There's no naming rights. It's like a, one-time notice that maybe somebody gets a hint. But naming rights is a different issue, which is what you're talking about. And that's, sometimes that can be a real problem. It's permanent, but presumably permanent.
Or, or at least for certainly a specified period of time at the very least.
But regardless of the giver's intentions or whether it's, you deem them a good or a bad person, their donation is still going to do very good work.
Right. And that's part of what is complicated about this, right? And knowing that when we think about, look, obviously there are people whose crimes and mistakes, I think a lot of people would say, I think a lot of us feel are less forgivable than others. And it can be kind of fuzzy. But I think it's also possible to be able to look at people in a, to look at people in a complex light. I'll give you an example. The head coach of Indiana University's basketball team for a long time was Bob Knight.
Yes.
Right. Bob Knight, right?
Yeah.
Okay. No.
And IU,
Sorry, you went to IU?
Well, I graduated from there. I started in Chicago, but I ended up, yes, I did.
Okay. So, my ex-wife and sister both went to IU.
Yeah.
And I remember when my ex-wife and I, when we initially started dating, she was at IU, and Bob and I was still the coach.
Mhm.
And I remember having this spirited debate with her about it, but just saying like this guy's terrible. He's verbally abusive. He is misogynist. He is I mean, just like this is, he throws temper tantrums. He's just this, I found him to be a very unsavory person. And she says,
Mhm.
yes, but his players graduate, and he encourages academic excellence, and he gives so much money to the university, and his success has raised so much other money for the university. And I remember just saying, like, does that make up for all the other things? And it's kind of an unclear thing sometimes. And so a couple years later, Bob Knight was fired for, I mean, this was not the first time that he had put his hands on a student
Mm.
in anger. But like, there was like and I think that basically like the president of the university said, this is your, like we're at a zero tolerance point. Okay. Like, in other words, you're out of chances here. And a few months later, some fan goes up and says something obnoxious, and Bob Knight takes him by the scruff of his neck and,
Oh.
goes, listen here, and they're like, okay, that's it. You're done. Zero tolerance.
In the early
And
70s, nobody cared about stuff like that. I mean,
right.
it was a different time. I wasn't even aware of that stuff back then because it just wasn't. No, he was just a great basketball coach, and we won a lot of championships. And nobody was talking about that because nobody talked. I mean, I was there in the 70s.
Mhm.
You're talking what, 90s?
Yeah, I think it was like right around, I
Like
think it was like 99 or
2000?
2000, something like
Yeah,
that.
it
Yeah.
was a whole different time. Yeah.
And, so when he died a few years ago, a question was, how do you evaluate Bob Knight? Right. I mean, and I think you have to take it all into consideration. You have to take the good and the bad, and then, and do you at the end of the day say, okay, well, all right, like, for us to say that somebody is a bad person or a good person, it's we like to use these labels, and sometimes it's just more complicated than using, good, bad, or
Mhm.
something like that. I mean, Bob Knight did a lot, for instance, as so many of us, did a lot of good things, and hurt a lot of people, emotionally and otherwise. Um, eh, do you, at the end of the day, you can't really say, I mean, at least we as fellow human beings, aren't in a position to say, okay, good person, bad person,
Mhm.
you know. Um, uh, it's tempting sometimes, and I know that there are times where I will think of somebody in one term or another. But there's nuance, right? There is nuance. And so, um, a being a charitable person does not erase bad deeds. But as it teaches in our Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur liturgy in the Unatana Tokef, that teshuva, tefillah, tzedakah, that repentance, worship and tzedakah, right? Charity and acts of righteousness can lessen the severity of the decree. And that's the key to it. It lessens the severity of whatever negative decree one might get. It doesn't, it's not like, okay, give a big donation and everything else is erased.
Right.
Also,
I
one.
mean, sorry, Richard.
No, go ahead, Gillia.
No, I was just going to say, but you and I, while I was working, we had to work with all different kinds of people, and you can't, you know, we may think in our minds, yes, this person is not a good person, but when it comes to working with them and maybe accepting donations from them and things like that, you still have to go ahead and do that. So,
Right. I mean, I wonder sometimes. I mean, and listen, I mean, look, there are certainly, okay, let's take an example of an infamous Jewish person. And I say infamous, and things that are a matter of public record.
Bernie Madoff.
Bernie Madoff. Well, I was going to say Harvey Weinstein.
Okay.
Somebody who's living, because I think Bernie Madoff passed away.
Yeah.
Harvey Weinstein. If Harvey Weinstein called Heska Amuna tomorrow and said, I would like to make a $1 million donation. I mean, look, obviously, it's complete hypotheticals here, but like, I would like to give, a substantial donation that will put the synagogue on very solid financial footing for a long time. I would like, and I would like it to be the Harvey Weinstein sanctuary.
Mm.
Okay, again, complete hypothetical here,
Mm.
right? And Harvey Weinstein is one person that I would say that the evidence available to us shows that he is a monster. I mean, in the end, no person can fully judge another human being on their life, but all evidence points to monstrous behavior, right? Again, maybe it's an extreme example, I recognize, but it's like, what do you do, right? I mean, do you simply say, and what if it's like, and you could say, well, what if you give half that and just we leave your name off? No, those are my terms.
The Rosens would object.
I would,
Seriously.
I mean, I would think so. I would imagine. I would think so. And goodness, and and I'll be honest, I would say, like, my instinct would be to say no. That's my instinct. I'm not saying that because like I'm better than anybody. I'm just saying like my instinct to say like I couldn't, like, it would give me a sick feeling every time I were to go into the sanctuary. I wouldn't be able to take it. But go ahead.
It's also the kind of idea like that. It's like, do you really need to take that money? It's not like God is 10 miles out of town in a broken down Chevrolet with no gas. It's like, is it necessary?
Is it necessary to, like, because thankfully, Heska Amuna is, running a balanced budget. I mean, like, so I mean, like, it's not, it's not, I mean,
desperate.
The synagogue's not desperate. It's not on the verge of collapse, thank goodness. And and we're still chugging along, and in plenty of good ways. So and so, Richard, you bring up something interesting, right? I mean, what if there were a circumstance where, heaven forbid, the synagogue were to be on its on sort of its last legs in terms of financial. I mean, I'm not saying that. I mean, it's a squeamish thought, and again, an extreme example, right? But as a thought experiment, it's a challenge, right?
Mhm.
Um, he is doing no such thing. I'm sure. Again, it's a hypothetical. Um, so, I mean, one thing we have to do. I mean, what did you know? Bill Cosby
Mhm.
has given a lot of money over the years for education, for African American education, um, uh, you know, uh, and again, all evidence points toward him being a monster as well, right? What would you do if you were those universities? What would you do I mean, if you were if there were a Cosby school of this or a Cosby scholarship fund for that?
If there was a synagogue, it's maybe kind of a mercenary thing, but you look at how many members would you lose compared to the donation?
Yeah.
Sure. Sure. I mean, I mean that sometimes is a consideration, right? I mean, if we um and by the way, that by the way is a consideration that um I remember somebody talking to me about in rabbinical school, which was not about the donation thing, but just as a general thing in terms of the piece of advice that we got was don't if you're making a difficult decision that you know is the right thing to do, don't worry. Like worrying about losing a couple, a member or a member family or two over it. If you're making the right decision for the congregation, worrying about what one or two families might do is not worth it. Now, some things are not, nearly as clear cut, but but there are times where, okay, well, what if the right decision means you're going to lose half the synagogue? I think that gets a lot tougher. Um, so I mean, I go back to the Thomas Jefferson quote. Thomas Jefferson himself a flawed figure as well, but where he said, "Always do right. This will gratify some and astonish the rest." Um, uh, so yeah, and look, I bring this up not to say I've got the magic formula here, but um, these are questions that are obviously not limited to the Jewish community, but certainly um, certainly a something that we have to deal with along with everybody else. Um, and you could also make the argument, or at least posit as an example, the fact that all of our biblical characters in the Hebrew Bible, all of them are flawed. I mean,
Mhm.
on my blog, I mean, the last however many, in the last half a year at least, have been, conversations about King David,
Mhm.
right? The most renowned king in Israel's history, David Melech Yisrael Chai V'Kayam. May David, may David's kingship rule forever and ever. You have to grapple with it. You have to grapple with the good and the bad. My post for tomorrow is really sort of the last um, decision he makes before he's essentially bedridden. And it refers to, I mean, he makes a huge mistake and does repent, or at least does express regret. But, he doesn't make a lot of good decisions, starting with Bathsheba and going forward. And David is, David's like the best we got, or in terms of royalty, at least, or one of the best we got. So it's, rare is it that we have characters in the Hebrew Bible that are that that are consistently Menschlichkeit all the way through. And if they are, it's because they aren't in the narrative for very long. Um, uh, so those are, so if we look at our ancestors, the one for whom we pray to God based on their merit, right? I mean, we begin the Amidah every time. Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Yaakov, Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, V'Leah. We are citing their livelihood, and their lives, and the promises that God made for them. But we are citing their record as the standard for which we should merit as well. And given the mixed the mixed records they have, well, we can allow ourselves a mixed record as well. Any more thoughts on this? I know I've kind of veered in different ways, but
I apologize for getting you off track.
No. By the way, I think we are. The idea is, we're still first of all, we're still talking Torah, I believe. And also, I mean, it's kind of, I mean, I think going down different roads is, it's part of it all.
Well, it's an important subject. So.
For me, I forgot what the subject was supposed to be, but this was very interesting. Very
Thanks. No, we were talking about the mitzvot of Purim, about giving. That's where it started. Believe it or not, that's where it started. Well, and in a sense, this is very Talmudic. I'm not trying to put myself on the level of the rabbis of the Talmud. But what I'm saying is that the style. I mean, you have, you'll start with a discussion about, two people are find a talit on the bench, and they both say it's theirs, and they tug war after it, and whose is it, right? And the discussion goes in so many directions. Sometimes it's stream of consciousness that you're like, okay, I think I know how you got from point A to point B, but it feels like a stretch. And other times it's like, hey, let's talk about this. It's like it's almost a it's almost a hodgepodge. An example of this is Moed Katan. This is the tractate in the Talmud that it's named after, it's essentially named after Chol HaMoed, those intermediate days between in Sukkot and in Pesach, those intermediate days where it's not Yom Tov, it's not a major holiday, but it's still a part of the holiday. So we're allowed to do work, but only work that you absolutely have to do. And what does that mean? Okay, that's where it starts from. Moed Katan has is by far the tractate that talks the most about laws of mourning. Now, how did we get from Chol HaMoed to laws of mourning? Well, I'm not remembering exactly where it starts, but my sense is that one of the questions is, okay, well, and this is a very real life example that I deal with from time to time, right? Um, somebody dies on Yom Tov, like the first set of Yom Tov on Sukkot, right?
Mm-hmm.
What do we do? I mean, do we sit Shiva on Chol HaMoed? We're actually not supposed to. We're supposed to delay Shiva until all of Sukkot is done.
Wow.
I had this, so I had this happen in New Jersey. A congregant's father died on the first day of Passover. The funeral was on Chol HaMoed. Right? They did the burial as soon as they could, because you can't do a burial on Yom Tov, but you could do it on Chol HaMoed. The burial was on Chol HaMoed, but she had to wait until after Passover was done to sit Shiva.
Why?
And and she did, and she was like, and I was, and it's like, I explained it, and she says, okay, I get it. I mean, all right, I'll do it like this, but this feels so anticlimactic and it feels so weird. It's like I feel like I've already taken time to be sad, and now I get time to be sad again, and it's like, I mean, and it is awkward, no question. So all of these rules having to do with more, but that of course leads the Talmud to talk about other laws of mourning, and so that's why you have so much of that in Moed Katan. There is no tractate. There's no Masechet Avelut. There's no tractate of mourning, because they already covered in Moed Katan. Now, this is a major difference, an important difference between Talmud and the law codes, which we typically study for Lunch and Learn, because the law codes basically says, all right, we're going to be, now we're going to be systematic. The rabbis of the Talmud, God love them, were not often systematic. We're going to get much more systematic. Another example that, I mean, might not be the same sort of thing, but Masechet Pesachim, the tractate about Pesach. There are 10 chapters. Where do you think the description of the Seder takes place? Chapter 10. What do they do in the other 9 chapters? As I understand it, it's a lot of it is about the Passover sacrifice and the rules thereof.
Cleaning the oven. Kidding.
You'd hope, right?
Speaking of Passover,
Sure.
slight changes. Okay, so on Shabbat, we use Zoom. We turn the lights on and off in the synagogue. We use Zoom, right? Stuff like that. On Passover, can we use the dishwasher?
Well, certainly not if you don't have to. I can say that. I mean, like, in other words, like I could definitely say that.
How is it different from turning lights on and off?
No, I hear you. Well, it's
so that you don't have to be up till 2 or 3 in the morning washing the stuff after the Seder. That's actually how it came up, this question.
I hear you. I mean, listen, it's okay. Let's say you're hosting 2 Seders, right? If you're hosting 2 Seders,
yeah,
presumably, whatever dishes you use the first night, you're going to need the second night.
Yes, true.
So I think there's more leeway for that because like you like it's not that washing the dishes is um
Washing the dishes is more
optional.
work than putting them in the dishwasher and pressing a button.
I think part of it has to do with so the issue with the dishwasher. I have to look again at the teshuva about use of electricity
Mm,
on Shabbat because there's certain things because when you turn a light on and off,
yeah.
right, it's just a bulb in which there's already currents of electricity going through,
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
There are the thought might be and look, I'm not swearing by this. I mean, I don't know that this is, that this is actually the reason, but that by pushing the button, you're setting into motion a bunch of other things besides turning on a light.
Actually,
Yeah.
the stair lift,
Mhm.
this actually came up yesterday. The stair lift will work as long as the power button is turned on. I know that sounds crazy, but the power button has to be turned on, and then the person sits down in it and pushes the button and goes up the stairs or down the stairs or whatever, which we certainly do on Shabbat and people will do when they come for the Seder, right? And the dishwasher apparently in the Heskamuna kitchen has a similar thing. There's an on-off switch, but then you have to press another switch to make it actually run. But the power's already on.
So that's I think that's an important factor. That's an
Yeah, at
important
least
factor.
that's how it was explained to me. I didn't even know we had a dishwasher,
Yeah,
but
no,
I,
that's an important factor. And there's I actually years ago went to a Shabbat dinner at somebody's home.
yeah.
And they had this like little, it was like this little dishwasher. I mean,
Oh,
like
yeah,
it was
portable
like,
dishwasher. Yeah, little next to the
like,
yeah.
yeah, and it was 100% not electric.
Huh. Right.
And
Okay.
so after dinner, they're like, oh no, we'll put on the dish. Well, we're gonna run the dishwasher. You're running the dishwasher? Yeah. Here, I'll show you. And it's like, you press a button and there are gears that I guess just don't do anything that violates Shabbat. Like, you run it through the faucet, you put the water, I mean, and
Mm,
I don't know what black magic this is. But no, it's all, I mean, but in all seriousness, like that, there are people who've created those things,
yeah.
which I find remarkable. Now, I'm not saying go and get yourself one of those.
No, but you are
Um,
going to be asked whether we can use the dishwasher on Passover, just so you know.
so yeah, I mean, what you've described I mean, well, the other two Seder's that I've been at they've never asked me. It's funny. They haven't actually
We
asked
didn't
me.
use it either,
Yeah. Oh, they didn't. Okay.
but it apparently I've never been the one cleaning up, but apparently it takes till like 2 in the morning and it's very, very labor intensive. And the question did arise.
Well, and I'm glad that look, I'm glad you're bringing it up now so I can
You can think about it and
do some
research
reading,
it. Yeah.
do some research. Because like, I mean, because it's like, look, when it comes to these things, like I don't want to say no.
Mm,
Right? I want to say yes because I want to make things easier on people. I mean, like halakha to me, Jewish law in general, should not be about how uh, you know can we be how strict can we get? It's not a competition of who can be the strictest. I don't think of it as it, right. Um, it's like, oh, you do this much, I do this much more, right? That's not what it's supposed to be about. You don't get a prize for being the strictest. Um, so I would, it's like if I have to say no to an idea or to a question, it's not because I want to, it's not because I want to purposely make it more difficult on anybody. But there are times where you have to look for justification. And if justification isn't there, then it's not there. And I know people will find ways to have, creative solutions to a lot of different things. I think I've shared this before. This is one of the times where saying yes to something, I had to like really kind of stretch to say yes. But I think it was the right decision for the congregation. This was in Charleston. There was a big gala fundraising dinner honoring somebody. And we were told it has to be on a Saturday night. And the only date to do it is going to be April. It's going to be in April, right? Well, it has to be on a Saturday. Like, were they willing to wait until 9:30 p.m. or whatever it was, or 9 p.m. to start there? They weren't willing to do that. How do you square that circle? So what I said was, okay, in the conservative movement, we permit somebody to drive to and from services. We have to offer a service. We have to offer a minyan at the gala. Now, if people don't go to the minyan, I can't control that. None of us can control that. But I can at least justify the idea that I'm driving somewhere before Shabbat ends, in which I will be davening in a minyan. And there happens to be, in addition to that minyan, a gala fundraising dinner. And we followed that, right? At a certain point, I arrived there maybe about an hour before Shabbat ended. As Shabbat was ending, I and a group of 12 or so people went in the corner of the ballroom or whatever it was and said Mariv, said the evening service Saturday night. When everybody entered the room, we did Havdalah for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Very creative.
Yeah, and that's like if you have a shul where you have Shalosh Seudos, most people have to drive to that because they don't live within walking distance of the synagogue. So then you still drive. You drive on Shabbat too. So
was it a stretch? Sure.
Yeah.
Was it?
That's a creative solution.
I mean, I hope it was. I mean, and
Yeah.
And look, and there were some, there were numerous. I mean, this was for somebody who was, in which there were people across, observances who were, coming to this. So, look, those who were Orthodox said, look, I'm not showing up until Shabbat ends. Okay. So, so they didn't, and okay, but they showed up after it was over. All right, fine. But so it wasn't going to make everybody happy. But I mean, what decision ever does? Anyway, so yeah, so in other words, Janet, as I mentioned, I want to say yes. I want to say yes to what we can. I have to make sure that we can reasonably do that. Any other questions or comments before we call it a day?
One other question.
Yeah.
What about the fast for Purim? On Monday?
Yes.
Sun up to sundown or something like that?
Sun up to sundown. There are those who will observe the fast through the beginning of the afternoon, because the idea is that a minor fast, there is a modern interpretation saying that with a minor fast you're allowed to stop halfway through, in recognition of the miracle of the state of Israel.
Mm. Oh,
Because because the minor fasts all had to do with Jews under threat or under oppression, and that the existence of the state of Israel can enable one to break one's fast as long as you do part of the day. It makes it ridiculously easy for me because I don't eat breakfast.
I didn't even know there was a fast on Purim, so
Or the day
new to me.
right, the day leading up to the Megillah reading.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so this is the fast of Esther, and it's in recognition of from the story of the Megillah in chapter 4, in which prior to approaching the king, Esther and her and some of the women around her fasted. They actually fasted for 3 days straight.
Mhm.
Oh,
We're taking it a little bit easier on everybody.
that's hard.
And no, and we shouldn't do 3 days. But anyway, I mean, yeah, so there is justification for that. For doing that. But yeah, it is that certainly is, it's one of the minor fasts. So anyway, so you'll so when I get to town sometime 4:00-ish on on Monday, likely I will have broken my fast by then. I'm guessing I will have by then. Either that or I'll be hungry. You'll see. So all right, next Wednesday I will be in town, and you are welcome to join us in person. You are also, as always, welcome to join on Zoom. We will have both options available.
Okay.
Sounds good?
Yes, that was a
Well,
very nice discussion. Thank you, Rabbi.
appreciate
Yeah.
it.
Thank you
Look,
very
it's good.
Like
Good.
I've
Good.
learned
Good.
a lot.
Yeah, look, it's good. It's good Torah.
Thanks for asking, Richard.
Yeah,
much.
all good.
Got it all going.
All